Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Once again, my name's Daniel, and this is Drawing with Daniel. Uh, let's get started. Thanks for coming back. If this is your first time, then you might check out my first couple of videos I posted was how to draw a fox, and I won't do as much talky at the beginning of this one as I did those videos. Those were my first, but let me explain a few things. First of all, I am not a professional artist. I'm an amateur artist. There's many artists better than me, but I have learned quite a few things over the years. And I've improved my skills mostly through repetitive drawing and practice. So hopefully I can pass on a few things to you as well. And you can improve your drawing as well. As long as you practice a little bit every day, you should get better. Um, you, you don't have to use the exact same materials and tools and that I use. You use what you have. I'll use a variety of things in these tutorials. The way I plan to do these is just the same way I did the first one, which was how to draw a fox. My first how to draw a fox video was a more cartoony, more simplistic style, if you want to say that, and it was geared more towards a younger elementary student, like a first, second, third grade or something like that. Someone whose skills are still in early stages of developing. And then my second video was the same subject matter, a fox once again, but it was a little higher level. It wasn't a photorealistic illustration of a fox, but it was more detailed than the first video. So it's for a slightly older student or a one that has more abilities or more skills. So obviously watch both the videos. I think you can learn from both the lower level and the higher level. So today's subject will be we're going to draw a horse. I'm going to do a lot of animal tutorial videos because I think a lot of people enjoy drawing animals, especially the kiddos. And these videos are kind of geared towards kids. Obviously, they're not geared towards a professional artist, not so much an adult either. But I'll do a lot of animal drawings, and today is going to be a horse, as I said. But in the future, I'll do other animals as well. And then we'll also do people and faces and facial features, uh, superheroes, dragons, cars, planes, whatever you want. So in the comments, if there's something you want me to show you how to draw, put that in your comment. Hey, Daniel, I want you to draw, and you fill in the blank. But today it's going to be all about horses. And this is a little cartoon of me, so that's kind of what I look like. I left off some of the gray hair, but that's me. So let's put that aside. And here's our paper right here. We talked about paper and materials in my very first fox drawing, so I'm not going to waste time talking about that today. You use whatever you have available. You don't have to use exactly the same thing I got. The colors don't have to be exactly the same. You do it the way you want to do it. And in the future, I'll make some videos where all I do is talk about materials. Maybe we'll get in more depth about the different kinds of papers, the different kind of mediums, and I'll explain a lot of the basics about that for people that are really just starting out and beginning and want to know more about that kind of stuff. So now, normally when I sketch, I use a hard pencil. We talked about hard and soft pencils in my first video because it gives you a lighter pen stroke, but those won't show up too well in the camera. So I'm going to use a B pencil, B as in boy, probably like a 3B or a 4B. It's a softer lead, but it's much darker. I don't normally sketch with those because it is too dark, but it will show up better for these purposes. They do tend to smudge a little bit, but that's okay. This is just for practice. So here's a 3B pencil. And when I'm talking about those numbers, you'll see them right there in the pencil. It says 3B right there. So B means soft. The higher the number, the softer it is, the darker you're going to get as well. So we'll talk more about that in a future video. I'll give a demonstration on shading with the different pencils. But okay, just like the Fox video, you're going to use basic shapes like you're going to use circles of different various sizes. You're going to use ovals of various sizes. You're going to use cylinders. or you might call it a tube shape. It's almost like a rectangle. Here's another oval that's just distorted somewhat. It's almost what I would call a bean shape. So these are some of the basic shapes that we will be using. Remember, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle, it doesn't have to be a perfect oval, it doesn't have to be a perfect rectangle or cylinder. You're going to distort and bend and twist those shapes. It's just to get you started. So, as always, if you're going to draw something such as a horse, you always have the option of what I do often is just go on the computer, go to Google or Google Images, or there's other resources as well. Type in what you want to draw, horse, and you'll get literally thousands of images, and you can use those to practice by. This is for the lower level kids, so your first graders, second graders, third graders, possibly fourth or fifth even. You know, if you're just starting out with drawing, you're kind of new to this. This will be more cartoony style, a little more simplistic. But let's go. Enough talkity talk. Enough yakety yak. Let's go. So we're going to start out with a simple circle. Like that. There's a little. This is going to be the head of the horse. Think of a horse standing there, and you're looking at it from the side. Look at that head. The top of the head is like a circle, and then that nose. That horse has that long nose, kind of snouty area. That's like an oval. So we're going to put that there. So there's your head right here. There's the long nose part. Okay, what comes underneath the head? Picture that image of the horse in your mind, or if you're looking at a picture horse, remember they have that long, thick neck. So I need another tube or cylinder, but this one's going to be wider and thicker, and I'm going to distort it a little bit. The tube's going to be more narrow, close to the top of the head, and then it's going to widen out as it gets to the body. So there's my head, my nose, and my neck. Notice how it flared out. Just not a lot, but it got a little wider at the base, at the bottom of the neck. All right. Now let's use this kind of beanie. It's kind of like an oval. It's basically an oval, but I've distorted it, made it more like a bean shape. That's the body of this horse. Your lines don't have to be perfect. We're just sketching. I'm going to finish that little bean with a big circle, kind of like I had here. Okay, so that's the beginning of my horse. I have its nose, the head, the neck, the front of the body, the middle of the body, and that back hindquarters area, the bottom of the body. Can you see how it's kind of looking like a horse? Now, if you change the dimensions on this a little bit, you could turn this into a dog, or other kinds of animal, a wolf, something like that. You have to play with the dimensions a little bit, though. All right, so that's our first step. Let's go to the next step. We have our circle here. We got the oval. I'm going to add a little triangle up here. I'll show you guys this in a minute. And I'll show you what I'm doing up close here in a minute. Okay, see how I did basically have that circle here, oval here. I left off. I left the line off right here. I don't need it anymore, so I left it off. I added a triangle. You know that's going to be the ear. I left this line off right here. I don't need that line there anymore. I don't need this line anymore, so I'll show you in a minute. Now I added some tubes, some cylinders right here. This one's a little straighter. This one I kind of bent. Like I said, we're going to distort these shapes. We're going to elongate them, widen them, make them more narrow, bend them, twist them so they'll look, I don't want just straight sticks there. I want it to look a little more real. So we talked a little bit about erasers in my first video too. So I'm going to erase those lines that I didn't need anymore. Go back and fix my lines a little bit. Okay, see how I got rid of those lines? I erased them. This was just to get me started, to help me with my proportions. Now I don't need those, so I erased those, okay? Let's add some more details. I know this horse is missing some things, right? When I draw, I turn my paper a lot too. I'll turn it just, sometimes I'll even draw upside down. Not me upside down. That would be hard, yikes. I'd get dizzy. But turn the paper upside down. But I'm constantly turning it and twisting it. And you guys can do that too, and you'll see that it gets, it will help you with your drawing. How many legs does a horse have? Well, obviously you know this. It's a dumb question. It has four legs. So don't forget the legs on the other side. What does it have at the very back? It's got its tail, right? Okay, so is it slowly starting to look like a horse? See how we went from this? Very basic shapes of all the lines. We got rid of some of the lines. I decided to add back this line a little bit. I don't want it to go all the way up there, but just a little bit, like I did right here is what I'm talking about. I don't want the whole line, but I want a little bit of that line. I had erased it here, but I went ahead and added it back in. Remember, these are the legs on the other side. So you don't see, if you're looking at this horse from the side, you're not going to see all of the two legs on the other side. You're going to see part of it maybe, but you won't see all of it. So you see all of the two on this side of the horse and just part of the other two. Think of it as wheels on a car almost. And then I got rid of this line at the base of the triangle for the ear too. And we added that important feature right there, the tail. And you could draw this a number of ways. That tail could have gone down like this. It could stick up in the air more. You want to get real fancy with it. It doesn't matter. You could draw tails all different kinds of ways. There's all kinds of different horses. When you Google those images of horses, pay attention to how many different kinds of tails there are. And if it's a really one of those fancy riding horses, it might even had a little hairstyle, something like this, where they actually braid the horse hairs. So they'll do that to the tail, and they do it to the mane up here, like the English riding horses, stuff like that. So use your imagination. It doesn't have to be drawn the same way that I drew my tail. You draw your tail the way you want your tail to look. Okay, so we went from very basic shapes with just a little bit more detail, started erasing lines, more features like the tail. Let's finish this little pony horse up. I hope you can see these lines okay with this 3B pencil. Like I said, I normally would not sketch with this. You can if you want, but I'm only using it because it gives me a darker line and will be easier for you guys to see. I'll show you what I'm doing in just a moment. You can watch along as best you can, and then I'll bring the paper up to closer to the camera. so that you can see. Okay, so here's kind of what we ended up with right here. So I added more detail. You can see that I added the mane. That's kind of the hair down the back of its neck. I added a little bit. This right here is a little, the mane comes down the front of the head too, between the two ears. So you can see I added another little triangle that I didn't have up here. That's the ear on the other side. We gave him a nice big eye. Horses have big eyes, so a nice big black eye. Don't forget his nostrils. They got kind of a big nostrils. He's got a little smiley face, or she, whatever. And there we go. So that one is pretty done. This is a good little pony. You can, I'm gonna show you some more things you can do with it in just a moment. But once again, just like the fox, we start out using basic shapes: circles, triangles, cylinders or tubes, ovals, bean shapes. You distort these. You bend the cylinder. You make little ovals, you make big ovals. You twist that oval into a bean shape. You got big circle and small circle, little triangles. Then you go back and you get rid of those lines. You erase them out. You don't need those anymore. You don't leave all these lines in or it wouldn't look right at the very end. And then you add the specific details. What kind of tail does your horse have? Does it have a big bushy tail? Does it have a little stringy tail? Does it have a braided tail? Does it have a pretty tail? Does it have bows in it? Does it have a thick mane or a thin mane? You could make the eyes bigger. You can make them smaller. Big smile, little smile. You could put teeth in there if you wanted. Obviously, it needs this kind of basic shape. A horse's body, it's bigger and wider here than it is here in the middle. And then they usually have that big rump, that big rear end. So this size and this size are pretty similar, and it gets more narrow here. The horse anatomy, his ribs are going to be like right here. This is his rib cage. So, you can look at pictures of a horse skeleton and it'll kind of give you a good idea what's going on there. And then they always have this kind of inward slope right here. I kind of made it straight here at the very beginning. I probably should have curved that more like this. I did go ahead and do that in the second time. This is where you would put your saddle and sit on top of them. Right here. So it needs to be, you don't want it too sloping in like that. Otherwise, there's something wrong with that horse. He's sick or malnutrition or something like that. I don't know a lot about horses. I have a sister that knows a lot about horses. She actually owns a horse, and she's always loved horses ever since she was a little girl. And she could probably explain all this kind of stuff much better than me. I'm trying to get better at drawing horses myself, so I think they're beautiful animals. All right, so keeping in mind, you've got this drawing right here. What would you do with it next? Well, the options are endless. Like I said, if you Google the image of a horse, you're going to find all kinds of horses. Here's just a few examples of what you could do. When I go to the zoo, like the Fort Worth Zoo, I see zebras. You could turn that horse into a zebra. They have a very specific looking mane that's different than a regular horse. So look at that. If you look at pictures of a zebra, they got all their little zebra stripes. I think that's pretty cool. So you could turn your horse into a zebra. That's the same horse that I have here. I just added stripes to it, and I changed the mane and the tail. Their tail's more stringy looking like that. Here's a horse that I think those are called, apologies to my sister if I'm wrong, those are called a Appaloosa horse, or sometimes they're called a paint horse, I think, or a paint pony. Think of Native American Indians and the Wild West, that kind of thing. But I think it's called Appaloosa or paint. And they have these, they're usually brown and white or black and white, and they have spots and little different colored socks. And I think those are really pretty horses. And I colored this with a marker. Yesterday in our fox drawing, we colored with Crayolas. You use Crayolas. If you have a box of Crayolas, there's no reason why you can't use those. Markers are fun to play with. I used markers this time. On the fox, I used colored Crayolas. And I also use colored pencils on the second fox that I did. Look at this one. What kind of horse is this? This is a magical horse. Oh, it's so pretty. This is a unicorn. I know a lot of you out there like unicorns, and I put a little rainbow coming out of his little unicorn, which is right on the forehead. It's just a long, skinny triangle, so just another one of those basic shapes we use. I'm trying to make his mane and his tail real curly and pretty, and I put little stars and hearts on him, and I used pink because I thought that would be pretty, and we painted his little shoes pink when these guys got little black shoes. Or hooves, I guess would be more appropriate. But see how it's the same body each time? Just the way you color it and the way you change the mane and the tail and add other little things to it, it's going to turn it into a totally different kinds of horse. So here you can make all kinds of different horses out of that using just those same basic steps, using the basic shapes, step by step, and just tweak and change a few things and color it differently. And you can come up with all kinds of horses. There's even more horses than this. This is just a few examples for you, and have fun with that. My next video will be drawing a horse as well, but it'll be a more detailed horse, one that is more realistic. Here's a few more realistic ones that I've done in the past. Here's one that's a dragoon soldier from the 1700s was riding. This was done in watercolor. It's just a little sketch. So there's a horse. He's all brown with a black tail. Here's one I just recently did. And this is got a Native American Plains Indian riding on it. He's out there in the vast plains, maybe South Dakota or Montana, someplace like that. The clouds behind him, and he's riding. He doesn't use a saddle. He rides his bareback. These Native Americans were excellent horsemen and could do all kinds of amazing things on horses. So that's another example. And then I've got more of a Western style horse here. This one was watercolor as well. It's got a young lady here walking her horse. She's out there in the range with the mountains in the background. Look at that, the saddle. So there's what a saddle looks like. You can put a saddle on your horse if you want. Look how he's got the little white socks here on two of his legs. See how you can't see all of the back leg in there. You can see part of it, and it's always going to be darker than the one that you can on the same side as you because it's further away from you and has more shadow on it. It's further from the light. Notice the nice big eye, the big nostril, just like we were talking about for our cartoon version. So as you get better, and I know you will if you keep drawing and practicing, you will eventually draw and paint horses like this as well. It's just going to take time. Do not get frustrated with yourself. Anything you do, I'm sure your parents will love, and there's nothing wrong with a simple horse like this. You can create all kinds of fun looking little ponies. So keep drawing, have fun. That's the main thing. As long as you're having fun with it, you're doing great. If you start to get a little irritated or frustrated because it's just not coming out the way you want, which happens to me often, that's when you stop drawing, you put it away, you go do something else, you come back to it later with fresh eyes, a fresh positive attitude, and you'll do better the next time. Just don't give up on it. You'll just give up on it temporarily. Just put it off to the side. You'll do better later after you've had time to cool down and think about it and look at lots of pictures and just start all over, and you'll do just fine, and you'll have a great time. All right, so I hope you watch the next video. It will be on horses as well. You guys have a great day and keep on drawing with Daniel. Bye.